Hey, it's Mr. Keys, and today we're going to talk about the pentatonic scale. The pentatonic scale is a 5-note scale consisting of 5 notes from our major key. So if we look at C major is C, D, E, F, G, A, B. If we take out the 4th note and the 7th note, we have C major pentatonic. This is a very versatile scale, and it can be used in a number of ways, including for bass lines. So let's take a look at how we can use it. Basically, you can use any of these notes to get from one bass note to the next. So let's say I'm going from D to C. Well, D is right beside C, so we can just do that. So we can go from D to C, or we can use the pentatonic scale to kind of walk up or down to get to C. So for example, if I want to get to C, I can use maybe an A below to get there. Or maybe I can chain 2 notes together. So I'll go G, A, C. So, and that's one way that we can easily get from D to C. We can do it in the opposite way as well. We can come from above and go down to C. So go from D. Now D is part of the pentatonic scale. So I started on G, and I walked my way down the pentatonic scale to C. So this is kind of the pentatonic scale in a nutshell. It's really nice to use these little runs to get from one bass note to the next. So our song that we're going to be working with is kind of a remake of Thinking About You by Frank Ocean. And these are the chords. So 2 beats for each chord. We have D minor, C major, G major, and A minor. And then it repeats, so you can see the chords up here. And so I'm just going to play what the chords would sound like with just the bass line. So it sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is just a repeat. Okay, so let's hear what it sounds like with the beat. So this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to record a pattern, and then we're going to discuss how that pattern works. So we'll discuss that down here. I'll just spread that out so that you can see everything, and so that we can see where things come on what beats and things like that. Here we go. So first pattern will be really, really simple. All right, so if we look at this pattern, we can see that these really long notes, these are our main chord notes, and then we're using the pentatonic scale to get from one chord note or one bass note to the next. So you see that I went up to the next pentatonic note, which is E, and then I jumped down to C, which is the 2nd chord. At the end of the timing for C, I played the pentatonic note that comes right below it, which is going to be A, and that connects me nicely to G. We could also look at this as an upper neighbor to G, and it just happens to be in the pentatonic scale as well. Moving on from G, to get back to A, we're going to use the pentatonic note right above A, which is C. So it's not really an upper neighbor because the upper neighbor of A would be B, but we can use this to get us back to A. Now to get us to the next chord, which is D, I started on A and I walked up the pentatonic scale. So A, C, D. We could also look at this one as a lower neighbor. And then once we're on D, we're going back to C. So I went down to the next pentatonic note and jumped up to C. And then same thing to get to G. I went down to E, which is the pentatonic note below G, and I jumped up to G, and so on and so forth. So that's a little bit about how the pentatonic scale works. All right, I'm going to create another pattern, and then we're going to analyze that one. All right, so this pattern is definitely a lot more detailed than the previous pattern. And I'll shrink this a little bit so that we can see all the notes. Or maybe just expand this a little bit. Okay, so what we have here is we have our first bass note, and then we're going to our second bass note. So you can see that there's all this whole flurry of notes that come before our second main bass note. So all I did was I started on E, and I worked my way down the pentatonic scale to C. Now, how did I determine what I'm starting on? Well, for me, it was just about timing. So I kind of knew where I wanted to start and how much time I had, and I just broke up this one beat into 4 pieces with 4 pentatonic notes and perfectly landed on C. So I started 4 notes above C, so D, E, G, A. And then there's this little note right here, and let me explain what this is. It's not part of this downward pattern. What it is, it's called a grace note. And what a grace note is it's a really quick flick from one note to the next. This note is embellishing the A. And I can do that basically anytime one of the pentatonic notes is right next to another one. So for example, if I want to embellish the D, I would use C. I could use the D to embellish E. Now, to embellish the G, I would have to go outside of the pentatonic scale. You can do it, it's fine, it's completely fine. I just tend to stay within the pentatonic scale when I do it. So that's one way that we can kind of make things a little bit nicer. And it can go the other way as well. I could use the A to embellish the G. So for example, something like this. I think it sounds better going up than down, but that's just me. All right, let's go on to bar 2. So in bar 2, we start on a G and we're going to A. So you also have another flurry. And so I started here on the A, and then I went up to the D and worked my way down to A. Then I use this as a lower neighbor. It's just one of the notes in the pentatonic scale to get to D. And then I jump down to the pentatonic note below my next goal note, which is C. So I went to A. So this is almost like an A-B turn, but just using the pentatonic scale. And then another up and down to get to my next major note. So you'll notice with pentatonic scales, at least in this example, there's a lot of up and down kind of movement. You don't have to do that. You can do any sort of movement that you want. You can include octaves and fifths and BA turns and upper neighbors and lower neighbors and all kinds of stuff like that. So the pentatonic scale is very versatile. You just got to make sure that your timing is right so that when you're going from one note to the next, you are hitting that note right on time. I know that C has to come on beat 3. I know that G has to come on beat 1 for bar 2. I know that the A has to come on beat 3 for bar 2, and so on and so forth. So you got to make sure that you get to those main notes on time, and then whatever you do for those in terms of rhythm and in terms of how many notes there are, it's completely up to you. You can do it really complicated, you can do it really simple, but that's a little bit about what the pentatonic scale is all about, and hope that helps.